You know, that is all a sign of appreciation because she knows that our children are representations of not just her, but of us. So there's been a multitude of things, you know, the way that just the way that my wife looks at me from time to time. Let
Right
me know.
now.
The way
All
she
right.
look
All
at
right.
you, I know
All right.
that's right.
All right.
That look. Okay.
That-
And he starts smiling.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Intuition.
That's it.
But it's so many ways, man, and so I'm unable to pinpoint just
Okay.
one way, but it's so many ways that she does show her appreciation for me.
Brother Henry, before we turn it over to the wives, how does Lady Joy show that she appreciates you?
You know what she tells me? Well, she tells me all the time, you know, babe, I appreciate, you know, the father you are to our children. You know, I appreciate, you know, you're not just the pastor of New Birth, but you're my pastor. And I appreciate how you lead our family spiritually. You know, I appreciate the fact that, you know, every morning, you know, you cover us in prayer. You lead us in prayer, you know. So, you know, and I mean, to echo what Brother Thomas said, I mean, there's so many ways she shows me, but I mean, I don't want to get ahead of you, but you know, my love language is words of affirmation, and so the fact that she tells me that she appreciates what I'm doing, and she also acknowledges, you know, maybe like when we did evaluations, areas I may have failed in, she'll acknowledge the growth.
Evaluation.
She acknowledged, hey babe, I want to see this is one of the areas you were kind of struggling in, and I want you to know I see that and I acknowledge that.
Okay. To the wives, that's all good stuff. To the wives, how can we show? Wait a minute, what's the question? Y'all done got me. I'm discombobulated. Okay, the wives are saying how men can show how y'all appreciate the wives. Lady Joy, how can Brother Henry show, or how can the husband show that they appreciate their wives?
A bath.
Give you a bath?
She said her bad.
Okay,
She just wanted
that's
to-
good.
Just carry me down the steps. I'm just kidding.
I thought we were talking about how we do it.
Hey.
I'm already doing
No.
Well, that's what you said. That was the question. We wouldn't praise them. So she's trying to say, how do we
She's talking for her and Baby
having a
Hazen
moment.
right now.
She was thinking.
She having a moment. Let her have her moment.
I was kidding. No, my husband, oh my gosh, he goes over and above to show me his appreciation because his love language is words of affirmation. So, for the people listening, he gives me orgasms.
Okay. So did y'all hear that? She said he gives her eargasms.
Yes.
Explain that. Break that down.
Yes.
So,
What does that mean?
So an orgasm is like he's going on and on about how beautiful I am and how much he appreciates me and all the things that I do for our family and our children and the areas that he's seen me grow in and how I'm just everything that he needs. I mean, one night in Bible study, I was about to just fall out because he was just telling everybody, you know, the prayer that he prayed to God.
Aw.
And that I was everything that he prayed for. I'm going to cry thinking about it.
Oh, come on, man. You're still going.
And so he gives me those orgasms to just remind me, like, man, I'm worthy of this, you know, because sometimes we can feel like when I married my husband, I felt like I'm not worthy enough for this, you know. I don't deserve this. He's such a wonderful person, period, you know, as an individual. And so when he does, he takes me there. That's an orgasm.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Black love.
Okay.
Excellence.
Black love, black excellence. Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Come on with
Celebrate
it.
it.
Yeah.
Suzette, how does Daniel show you he appreciates you?
He is very intentional with his thoughts. So I'm not the one to keep the dates of things. So when you said how many years, yeah, that'll be him. Because I'm going to miss it every year. And he's like, you know, it's been this. He can remember everything. And then, and so do I. Because trust me, because I'm not the one. But for me to be able to quit my job after 10 years, he said, why don't you just quit your job? And I was like, what am I going to do? I make this much money. Never in the history of my life has someone said, quit your job. And that's why I said it became so easy to trust. Because he laid the foundation for me to walk into faith, to just kind of heal and go through the therapy and things that I did. And it was like, I'm going to go into fitness full time. So when he jokingly said, and all her shenanigans, all of her ideas, I know that I pull a lot on him. But his support is 100%. He's never said, I don't believe in you for doing the podcast. I don't believe in you for doing the Arbonne. I don't believe in you for doing the gym full time, because he knows we still do all of those things. But I pull on him, and he never once complains. At least he's never told me or shown me. He's never said it's my money. I make the money. He's never said that. So when you said homemaker, he has never made me feel like it's less for me to be able to stay home and not have to
That's
work.
good.
So then
Beautiful.
I feel appreciated, and it's like, that's a lot. And I tell him all the time when I get there, I said, did I tell you today that I appreciate you? And then he starts blushing. Because I'm telling you, he really does. It's like, did I really tell you that I really appreciate you? And then it does matter when you still feel attractive and that they are still saying something when you walk through the house. And I'm like, what you looking at? He said, you? I'm like, oh, God. So then I start blushing, you know, because we will tear ourselves down. But, and so he's always saying that. And so when you get the touches and stuff like that, it's like, I am thankful that he's still touching and stuff. So it means a lot. So those are things for us that I am appreciative, and I do try to make sure that I do tell him, because his love language, again, is words of affirmation. And so I know that for him, like he said, to give him that box, I'm normally putting something there. He's not going to read the card. He could care less about the card. He see that UA bag, and it's like, ah, and he's good. I mean, that's his area. But for me, just overall, just being 100% supportive and going above and beyond for that. So, yeah.
Sister Talisha?
I would have to say it's pretty much he shows me in a lot of ways as well. He's always complimenting me, even when he'll give me a compliment and I'm looking like a mother, like I'm working at a daycare, or not that moms can't be fly, or like I'm working at a daycare, you know, I'm looking rough, and he'll stare at me a certain way and bite his lip.
That's right, bite that lip, honey. Yes, bite that lip, Brother Thomas, bite that lip. That's what you do, bite that
For the
lip.
listeners out there, hey, take notes. Take notes.
Bite
Simple,
that lip, sir.
simple subtlety.
I know that's right.
Simple subtlety now.
Bite that lip.
Knowing your spouse's or your partner's love language is extremely important, and I think that that's how you show your appreciation. And he knows that my love language is gifts. I like to be gifted something, and he can come home with some French fries. It's a gift for me, you know. Like the other night, we had some pizza. He's like, "Oh, I got these French fries for you." You know, it's something small, but it's for me.
It's for you, right? Acknowledging.
You know, so he knows what I like, and he knows my love language, and I think that's success.
Beautiful.
That is. That kind of goes into the next question. We'll go to just directly to that one. So sounds like everybody knows their love language. So my question is, do you show love based on your language or your partner's? Because I know not y'all probably here know, but there are couples who we tend to love people out of how we want to be loved versus how they desire to be loved and how they need to be loved. So how does that work for you guys?
So I had to grow in the understanding of that my love language is not his love language, you know, because I like gifts. That's not how he wants to be loved. You know, my husband's love language is touch and feel and affection. So I had to really separate it from myself and know that he wants to be touched. He wants that for himself and not the gifts. So I learned that, and I would say it's better now.
Okay.
Well, I just decided I wanted to learn every language there was, so there'd be no lack. So
I know that's right.
I do them all.
Okay, you show all of them. Okay. Lady Joy?
His is words of affirmation and acts of service. And so for him, I know that I can just say, you know, how I feel to him, or tell him something that he's done, or acknowledge something that he's done, and tell him how proud I am of him. And so that for him is good. But acts of service, like at home, you know, just doing things that would alleviate the stress for him in his day.
Yep. That's good. Because I feel like when you love based on your partner's love language, it requires you to be selfless and not selfish.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Susan?
Like my sister, I have to learn more about to be touchy-feely. I'm not the ooey-gooey person. Don't really like to be touched sometimes. So I have to be intentional about saying, let me receive it, but let me give it. And so, put that in practice more. I was putting that more in practice. So a lot of times our Friday nights or where he likes to watch the car shows or live PD or something like that. So then we'll have that touch moment or something like that. And I'm like, oh, come over, give me this hug or something. I joke because my thing is joking also. But that's how we actually were able to bond a little bit more from that, because he said, I know you don't like to be touched or felt. And I said, no, it's just the hot flashes right now. But no. So there's some days I really want his touch now, so he knows when to, and I know to be more intentional about touching. But then also, flip the script, bring the flowers home. And he was like, I've never had flowers in my entire life. I said, well, you do now. And so it's the little things intentional about just thinking about what would he like, because I know that he works a full-time job that can be stressful, and that, not saying that my job is not, but I probably have more opportunities to do more for him. So, I may not feel the best, and I'm like, let me go ahead and stop at the store. I know he likes this. Let me pick this up. And so I'm more intentional, like you said, being more selfless. I'm going to be honest, I was a very selfish person growing up, and my mom made it known that I was very selfish. And when I learned to give of myself, he will tell you that we've been blessed just abundantly as a result of just we're sowing constantly, and then we're now seeing all that harvest. Amen. But it's because of just giving. And now he never questions like, well, where do we get the money from? I don't know. We're just going to make it happen. And so that support now allows me to see what he needs to make sure he's thriving, because when I'm away from the gym, he's holding it down. So I got to make sure he's cared for and that he's 100%, or else I can't do the things that I want to do. So that's why I give more to him now, because I see the reward. I don't want to say that you have to, how do I say? I don't want to say me giving to him gives me back, because that's not what I'm expecting. But when I do give to him, it comes back so unmeasurable. It's like I'm excited about it.
Right.
And then he gets excited. Like, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah. So it's great.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
So moving along, we're going to go to the next question. How important is compromising in a relationship? Sometimes there's just things that we just don't want to compromise. But how do we find that medium spot, that middle spot, where we can say, you know what, I can compromise this.
Especially when you have an alpha male and an alpha female in the home. How do you? Somebody got to compromise.
You may have two people that's super intellectual. You might have two people that's that feel like they're always right. I mean, there's so many different layers to this. But how would our listeners, because this is a huge issue in a lot of relationships, not being able to compromise. Like we were talking earlier about people sitting on stuff for years, and then you have to have the evaluation to let this stuff out. So how do you compromise this and move forward?
Man, compromising is such a critical point. And in the Nation of Islam, we have classes that kind of help us in going into compromising from a more logical perspective, I guess you would say, because the MGT class, which is the class for women, teach them components that complement the components of the FOI and vice versa. And so knowing that we have two opposite natures, what she desires may not be in tune with what I desire naturally, and vice versa. But knowing her nature and how her nature has to be catered to as well, it makes it more logical for me to compromise to some things that are going to help her propel in really growing into who she is by nature, and vice versa. Some things that she may have to compromise on to help me grow into who I am supposed to be by nature. So the scripture says, lean not on thine own understanding. So we have to always be seeking assistance in how to compromise and what we're compromising for. So if the end goal is to make compromises that's going to help propel the spouse or our spouse into their nature and becoming them their best selves, then the compromise that we have to make is minimal if the reward is going to be great, like my sister Susan was saying.
Beautiful
That's beautifully said. Go ahead, brother Henry.
Man.
Talk to the mic.
Yeah. Can't go behind it. Right.
Yeah, we're all like,
No, I just wanted to piggyback off what he said. I like how he so eloquently put it, like learning what compromise is. Because honestly, when we first got married, I thought I was compromising. I wasn't compromising at all. I was conceding.
Wow.
I would just give up, and I would always feel upset because I felt defeated. But the truth of the matter, I was defeated because I kept just conceding every time. And so my ability to compromise learned in my ability to speak up. And